we got to talk about statues because this is a big consideration for a lot of people. Because a lot of people, I'll be willing to bet in the chat, some people have some statues. I know you have some. I have like maybe 10 or something like that, right? So it's not something where we have an abundance of statues. Most of the people in the chat are probably 1/6 Hot Toys collectors. So I think there's something to be said about a conversation about tips and considerations for buying statues. And the reason I want to talk about it is because it's all about me, because I want to talk about this Witch King also, bro. That's what kind of got me onto this. I did a preview on it, but it kind of got me thinking. Because I'm undecided about whether I want to buy this. And I know there's a million other people that are doing that with other statues. But Optical, I want to ask you, like, what tips and considerations do you kind of take into account when you're buying a statue? Not even a half scale, but a quarter scale, 6 scale statue, even like maybe even a third scale, stuff like that. I mean, what are you really thinking about when you buy those?
Dude, because statue is a big purchase, and not only that, it's a commitment. Because so the considerations are space first and foremost, like where you're gonna put this half scale thing. I know. Did you get Legolas, by the way?
No, see, I'm trying to decide which I want to get. I might only get one, but
I mean,
dude, it's a tough call. Legolas is like twice the price, though. You have to consider that.
Then you take the bigger. I was about to say, even without knowing the price, the bigger guy looks just amazing.
He does look amazing, bro.
Yeah, because Legolas looks good, but it's not like 100%. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's there. With the Witch King, you can't really go wrong. He doesn't have a face, so I mean,
can't mess that one up.
Yeah, like and it's bigger, so but it has a gimmick too with the light up sword. But going back to your question, I guess size, price, those two things, and along with the price, obviously, is is this going to be the final version? Because that's what we always talk about with statues. It's like, I don't want to buy twice. This is not 1/6 scale where it's like, oh, the next movie, I'll buy the next one. He's going to be fully Shang-Chi on this one. So I'll just, because you can buy like 5 Shang-Chis before he becomes really Shang-Chi and you won't even feel it. But with this, you want to be like, man, is the pose right? Is they nailed the pose? Do we have all the accessories needed? This is gonna be my final purchase, even though sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, with Witch King, I mean, half scale. There's not gonna be even if there's another Witch King. I don't know what you can add to that. The post looks pretty phenomenal. He got the sword switch outs. So, and if another company's gonna make them, and even if they do, how much improvement can they do? I mean, not much. So with that, I think it's a pretty easy decision. But with other statues, that's where you kind of like with that Black Adam that you just showed.
Right.
That is kind of like, all right, we'll see. This one, the good thing about this is you could use this as Legolas or Jon Snow's wife, whatever his name is.
Either way, it's just more blonde.
Either way, you have representation of Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings. So, just make him redhead.
That sounds like a win all around. Yeah. But the rooted hair on this optical, this is pretty, I mean, this is something to factor into this because you're paying a lot more for statues typically. Like this statue has rooted hair and it's a silicone head sculpt, right? So you're paying almost $3,000 for this thing. This is not something to be taken lightly. Unless you're just a goddamn baller and you can buy anything you want, right? Then by all means, do your thing. But I just feel like there's a lot to factor into it. Like you said, space is probably the biggest thing. Space and money are the two biggest things. Because for me, when I'm looking at how much space I'm going to have in these module cases and maybe in this room in general, I'm thinking about half scales and quarter scales and third scales. And I'm like, you also have to project, I feel like, what's going to come out in the future because I have a finite amount of space and moving on from a statue is not fun. So if I buy the Witch King, for example, and then half scale Loki comes out and I need that space, then I'm pretty much screwed, right? I have to go and sell that thing and then make space for Loki. So for me, I think you have to, one of the tips I would give people in consideration is think long-term. Like what characters do you really want in half scale? Because you want to save room for that possibility. Is it realistic that character gets made in not only half scale, but in any scale that you would want it, right? Like, is there a realistic chance that a Terminator Arnold gets made in half scale or third scale? I would say probably yes, right? In a good, Darkseid's making them, but they're not great in my opinion. Like, but could Queen Studios make that? Very, very possible. Right. So I feel like you would almost have to project that a little bit optical, don't you think, to kind of think about the future? Because moving on from statues, like selling them, trust me, it's not fun. So.
Oh, yeah. I learned, I've seen you firsthand with that Joker. How and as you know, you can't predict anything right now. You want to say like, hey, Hot Toys is like we had troubles like selling things, not just
Yeah.
Hot Toys. Like everything's in stock. So imagine if this is in stock and you want to move on from him. This is the thing. Like as good as this guy is, we can honestly say there's room for improvement.
Yeah.
And this is a $3,500 statue, and you kind of don't want to say that for something that's worth 3,500. You kind of be like, oh man, this is it. This is it. But imagine if Queen makes, because it looks like they're going to get Lord of the Rings,
Yep.
with in art, and maybe, just maybe, they'll tackle, like the half scale, quarter scale. And what if they come out with one and it's a banger? How are you going to get rid of this? You're going to
Right.
be like, all right, 3,500. You could. How much are you going to eat to get rid of this? So I think those are the factors that you need to look at. It's not as easy as Hot Toys. Like, all right, you know what? I'll lose 50. I'll lose 75. It is what it is. I'll lose 100. And here, yeah, potentially use half, to get
Yeah.
rid of this guy. And it's not like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna buy that Queen Studios Legolas and I'll figure out what to do with this. No, you can't do that with statues.
No.
You gotta get rid of one first before you buy the next one. Because you're not gonna where are you gonna put that? It's not like,
Right.
all right, I'm gonna put Legolas in the back, let me rotate my Detolf, so
Right. It's not that simple with statues, man. Like, and for example, the Sauron I have in quarter scale, I absolutely love that. Like, I thought about, hey, maybe I'll end up selling that and just get the 6 scale Weta or something, and then get a half scale Lord of the Rings line and just roll with that, right? Sauron, yeah, he's going for at retail or above retail right now, so I could probably get pretty close to my money back, if not more so. But shipping him, I would be dreading that, because there's so many parts involved and it's such a big statue that I'm just like, for one, it's going to cost me hundreds to ship it. And two, just to packing it up, the logistical issue of packing it up. Dude, packing up that Joker was enough. I was like, dude, there's so many like little cards and little extra things. And Hot Toys are 6 scale figures are very simple to move on from, because you can literally put them back in the box. They're simple to put back, very easy, and people buy them much easier. With statues, you have a smaller market, I feel like, of people willing to buy secondhand, because one, something more could go wrong when you ship it, and two, it's more expensive. So the higher price the item, the smaller the market gets. So when you go to buy something like this, I feel like you have to really be cognizant of a lot of factors. For statues, I try to preach the idea of trying to buy at least for like 5 years that you're going to have it, right? Maybe a lifetime, preferably. But we all know things happen. Better versions come out, different versions come out, other characters come out, and you have space that you need. I've moved on from plenty of statues. It happens, right? But nowadays, I feel like I've become more and more selective to be like, am I going to keep this long term?
Yeah.
Because if I don't see myself saying, yes, I'm going to keep this for a really long period of time, and if I throw out the hypotheticals in my own mind, like say Loki gets made, what am I going to do, right? Say Terminator gets made, what am I going to do? Am I going to get rid of this? Like, then I probably would be like, let's just hold off then. You know what I mean? That's what I would say. But
I think the price is the biggest scare for statues, because and then secondly is the space, because like quarter scale, the ones behind me, or premium format, I feel like it's still in the same realm of Hot Toys, where I was like, all right, I'm gonna pack it up, and so there's not a whole lot of risk into it. But once you go to third half scale and you exceed $2,000,
yeah.
that's where you kind of have to pause and be really mindful of your purchase. Be like, all right, this is gonna be the representation of this character in my thing, otherwise I'm screwed. Because even if you buy a Batman, like how many Batmans do exist out there? The person who's going to buy that Batman statue must really love your statue for him not to buy the other available 300 Batmans out there.
Right.
So,
and optical, there's always the possibility, like say InArt makes this in 6 scale, right?
Yeah.
Then I could be like, well, I could have just got him in 6 scale and saved space and money. So I don't know, but there's just something about this piece, bro, that's really speaking to me. I really like it a lot. And it's not just the price. I know Carlos said like it's the price for Will. That's great. I love the $1,500 price, because that's really good for a half scale. But I just love the pose, the outfit, the presence, the light up sword, dude. I just think there's a lot to like about this statue, personally. But that's what I would say, bro. But yeah, there's a lot to consider with statues. So I think people really need to be, and me included. And I have to do this. I have to keep myself in check all the time with this. So
yeah.
Yeah, man, it's a thing.